Assalamu alaikum, ladies and gentlemen. Today we will be starting our lecture from where we left off the last time. If you recall, we were discussing segmentation, the basis of segmentation. But before I start today's lecture, we will try and quickly recapitulate the important points that we made at that point of time. If you remember, we had discussed what is the marketing strategy perspective that requires segmentation. And we had discussed the issue of segmentation, targeting, and positioning. And we had very specifically emphasized this point that unless and until we can isolate a group of people from the overall market, we will not be able to offer them exactly what will be of value to that particular group. And obviously, if we cannot offer anything of value, which is different from what is offered by the competitors, we will not be able to achieve what we said was competitive advantage. Now, because of this STP perspective, we needed to discuss methodologies by which we should be able to segment the overall market, or what we call segregate or disaggregate the total market in specifically homogeneous groups, which means वो groups जो एक दूसरे से मिलते जुलते हों, so that we can then find what is the real need that exists in that particular segment, which we can satisfy. Now, having started that discussion, we had discussed basically three major areas of segmentation procedures, and one of them I had discussed was geographic. We had discussed the issue that more or less people who live within the same geographical region would more or less behave and need certain similar things. The second one was demographics. And though I said that demographics are normally used, but the specific use of demographics is to be able to describe the segment more than to use it for segmentation. For example, we had said that if I was to segment the market in an age group of, let's say, 18 to 25, it does not really give me what they really want or how do they really behave or what should be the method to approach them. But by the demographic systems, we should be able to describe the segment which is determined through some other method. And naturally, when we discuss the metric system or the hybrid system of segmentation, then demographic segmentation will become a little bit more clear in terms of what is the benefit of this particular technique. The third that we discussed was socio-cultural frameworks, where we said that social classes behave more or less or need and want more or less similar things. And the discussion then went on to target the concept of the cultures and the subcultures within the major cultures. Now, today, having put this whole thing into perspective, the importance we have described, the thing that we should recognize also is that there are certain benefits that we can draw from this segmentation of the total market, but there are also limitations and there is also a weakness within the system. Very simply, it helps us to focus ourselves. What we say is the rifle approach. That means we target the segment that we are interested in, and then we offer tailor-made, positioned product, promotion, price to that segment. But on the other side of the picture, this will obviously help us differentiate the product from our competitors, but it will also increase the cost. Why? Because we said in mass marketing, the benefit was that it is less costlier to be able to approach the whole market. So the opposite of that mass marketing is segmentation marketing strategy. And in that, we break the market. So when we offer something, we lose the concept of economies of scale and scope. Now, economies of scale and scope are basically that if there is a product, and I suggested and I mentioned to you that if I was to sell the same product to 100 people, then if I was to produce that 100 units, it will be cheaper than if I produce only 10 units, which is targeted towards a particular segment. So keeping these points in mind, but according to research, the value of segmentation far exceeds the cost of segmentation or the cost that you will incur when you are targeting your product, particularly to a segment. So having briefly laid down the background, we will now move into another base of segmentation, which is known as psychological base. Now, psychological base obviously is a very vast subject area. For example, it includes concepts like motivation, it will include concepts like learning, perception, so on and so forth. So I'll be picking this up in separate groups in the future lectures. But we should be able to understand that we need to know what motivates a person to buy a specific product. So we will discuss largely the concepts of motivation, and we should be able to understand that motives are the ones, really the motives are the ones which actually push people into specific behaviors, because there is a requirement, there is a need or a want inside, which is, when not satisfied, will create a kind of a tension, and to release the tension, people tend to behave so that they should be able to reach the situation or the position that they are looking for. And this can be then considered in terms of the marketing area. You want a pen, you do not have a pen, therefore you need something to write with, and once you have this need, you now then move into getting hold of a pen so that you can satisfy this need. So this becomes a very important topic area which we will cover in the next few classes. Leaving this aside, we come to the concept of psychographics. And I told you psychographics is a picture, the psychological picture of a human being, and it really relates to majorly three things. Number one is the activities that individuals undertake in their daily life or in their leisure time or over a period of time. The second one is interest. Now, interests are, what am I interested in? What is among the various products or various services or various things that we can do in life, where do I put my interest more than in another area? And the third one is opinion, which means basically what is my feeling about any item, anything of any phenomena. It could be political opinions, it could be opinions regarding a product, it could be opinion regarding a particular behavior. So AIO, which is the acronym for activities, interest, opinion, is the major area of discussion. And we try and study this basic process of activities, interest, and opinion through a number of frameworks that we have. And the one major framework that I will be looking at is called the WALS framework, which is the value, activities, and lifestyle framework. AIO, which is the psychographic frame, normally is used, and let me explain the basic usage of this, in trying to locate messages which will be appropriate to target into a particular segment, which means it helps you develop the approach to promotion. That means advertising. So, which means basically that if I have a group of people who I find are interested in, let's say, playing golf, then if I wanted to promote my product, then obviously I should be able to target in a magazine which is related to the interest of golf. In the same case, people who are interested in reading or buying or looking at the latest technology in terms of computers, then if I want to promote my product, then I should be able to use that kind of the media. In the same way, for example, if I come to know that the people are more interested in tourism, traveling, so on and so forth, then again, I would try and locate my promotional campaigns in media that targeted this area of interest. So let me put it back again to you that AIO, the acronym for activities, interest, and opinion, is normally located with the interest in trying to find media or the kind of campaigns that will be run to be able to promote the product. Another example, most probably you have seen it a number of times, if people are interested in adventure, going out to kind of mountains, trying to go to the natural sites, or are interested in deep sea diving. So you find that products normally tend to use similar kind of features to be able to lay down their promotional campaign. Now, therefore, AIU has been normally studied by a number of frameworks, out of which two very well known are the PRISM as well as the WALS framework. I will focus more into the area of WALS and try and explain it according to what I would say the slides on the screen, because we need to be able to target the WALS framework in a more comprehensive manner. If you look at the screen, we find that there are two extreme points. The first one, the upper level, is of people who have a number of resources. I mean, they are fully capable of handling all kinds of resource need, and therefore their buying behavior is obviously going to be looked at from the point of view of how much resources they have and what kind of behaviors they will include. At the lowest level, we will find people or a group of people who have less resources. So in this WALS system, which was developed specifically over a period of time and has been very strongly adapted by a number of companies for their own use. And not only that, this WALS was developed in America, but now you can find a WALS framework for the UK market, which is the United Kingdom. There is one in Japan regarding the Japanese markets, more or less. So the developed countries have been using it quite extensively. Unfortunately, at least I have not been able to find a particular determined document which would be able to classify the Pakistani market under the WALS schema. Now, therefore, there is a major research area which can be undertaken in trying to work over the framework of the Pakistani market as an overall market, and then figure out how can we classify the market in terms of the WALS classification. Now, before I start explaining the WALS classification, let me also capture the concept of classification. Now, classification is basically classifying groups of people together, or items, or some kind of a common phenomena. So we have this classificatory schemes, which would then mean that we have classified a complete large group into homogeneous sections with similar kind of characteristics. This is normally undertaken in the SPSS, or the statistical programs that we use, and normally under that we have something known as the clustering techniques. Clustering techniques actually basically means clustering groups of people together who show certain characteristics which is common. So in terms of segmentation, clustering techniques are critical. Now, coming back to the WALS framework. Now, WALS has got 3 motivational frames and 2 resource frames. That means the upper level, the higher level, we find that the resources are abundant, and at the lower end, the resources are a little less. The 3 frames that we have, which are called the prime motivational frames, is number 1, the ideals. Here the people are more or less who are more thinkers and have certain ideal frames that motivate them. The second one is what we say the achievers frame. These people are more into achieving things. And the final frame is what we call the self-expression frame, which means these people are more into expressing themselves through their purchase behavior. Now, going back to the kind of overall frame, therefore we find that there are more or less 8 groups of people which have been classified in this framework. The top ones are the actualizers or innovators. You can find different terminologies in different books. So you will find actualizers or you will find innovators. Now, they have a specific behavioral pattern. The behavioral pattern that they exhibit is very interesting. These people have more or less all the possible resources to do everything. Therefore, their basic motivation can come from any one of those 3 points that I have shown you. And for example, they could be motivated through ideals, motivated through achievement, or self-expression. And therefore, they are people who we call, they are innovators. They are the first ones to try out new products. They are more into technology. They are more into trying out things which have come new into the market. Therefore, they normally buy products which are niche-oriented. Obviously, companies would prefer these people as their marketing segment, because if they're launching a new product and it's an innovative product, it is of prime value, then these are the people who will actually do it. They are what we call the leaders in the society in terms of their purchase behaviors as well as their approach to life. They tend to take control of life itself, and they tend to be very abundant in resources so that they do not have any constraint on their system. But now on the other side, if you go to the lowest sector, which are basically strugglers or strivers, you will find again different terminologies. These people have very few resources. So they more or less are living to survive. Therefore, their basic concern would be either safety or security. Therefore, they would not be motivated by any other consideration. Like, for example, ideals are not their motivating factors. Status is not their motivating factor, nor is self-expression. Their basic motivation would be to secure themselves. So they feel powerless. They are people who believe that they cannot change their lives. They cannot do much to bring about a change in their own lifestyles or living frameworks. So they tend to be little deficient in trying to be proactive in the system. However, what it seems is that they normally are brand loyal people. They are brand loyal because they have a chance. They are security oriented. So once they have bought something, they would like to go back to the same thing. And second, they normally tend to buy at discounts. For example, if there is a major discount scheme being offered, these will be the first people to go and buy. They will try and find cheap packages in terms of any product that they want to buy and try and get the benefit out of that. Now, exactly what I said, they are totally opposite of the innovators or the higher end people who have got a lot of resources. These people therefore go for very niche prime products. They actually have no concern about the fund, so they normally tend to be at the higher end scale, and therefore are approached by niche marketers. Now, having discussed these two, now we will be coming into the group of people who lie within the 3 sectors, and each group has to be seen from 2 points. In the first, for example, in the ideal stage, we will find 2 actual groups, one with abundant resources, the next one with lesser resources. So the comparison now is within the same motivating framework, the comparison is between the 2 groups. Now, in the first one, we have the thinkers. These people are people who are reflective. They are mature. They are more, in the sense, sophisticated, but they are reflective. They think a lot. They consider a lot of things. So they normally tend to buy things of value. They prefer value. They are more into logical thinking before they will go into a purchase decision. They would like to secure information to be able to take the correct decision. As compared to what we said in terms of innovators who are not brand loyal, and this is what is critical, important, that the innovators are not brand loyal. For example, why? It's very simple. They can choose any product they want to, and therefore they can buy whatever they want to, and if they don't like it, they can discard it. But in comparison to the thinkers who are more reflective, they make choices based on certain frames, and that is based on information. So these people look for products which are durable and provide them value. Now, after this group, within the same factor or the same classification scheme on ideals, we have what we call the believers. Now, believers are people who are very traditional, conservative. These people do not like to change rapidly. They avoid change in terms of they do not want to indulge in buying new things and so on and so forth. Now, if that is the case, then they obviously would be more brand loyal, and they would go to what we call the traditional values. If you look at the screen again, you will find that believers have a particular framework. They are very slow to change, and they avoid new technology. But one of their characteristics also is that they are very rule oriented. That means they are very lawful, and they tend to follow rules very regularly. If you now see the differences that we can clearly establish between the thinkers as well as the believers as well as the innovators, we know how we can approach these three groups in using different kinds of promotional campaigns. This should become a little clearer as we keep going along. Now, the next group that we see in the area of people who are or motivated by status is achievers. Now, achievers are people who basically are more goal-oriented. So they have a tendency that they value family, and they center themselves around the family behaviors. In this form of people, they are more stimulating to change. They are more attuned to change, and they desire change in various frames. They want products which are premium in nature so that they can actually prove to their peers, and peers are people who belong to their same social group, that they are successful individuals. Now, the achievers, therefore, focus more on achievements. All their approach to purchase, their behaviors, their interests, their activities are targeted towards suggesting that they are people who have succeeded in their lives. Now, again, the people, and they again remember that they have abundant resources. So whenever I talk about this, you need to look at the graph that I'm showing, or the figure, and know that the upper level are people who have more resources, and the group of people just below under the same prime motivations is with less resources. Therefore, in terms of achievement, we find that, or the status group, we find that under the achievers are the strivers. Now, these people who strive are people who tend to act like the higher end group of people. They are more fun-loving. They enjoy themselves going out. They have they are more trendy. They buy products, but because of the less resources that they have, they tend to buy those kind of products which are more or less, I won't say copy, but emulate, which means तकरीबन उन्हीं की तरह के चीज़ें खरीदी जाती हैं जैसे वो लोग खरीदते हैं, those who have abundant resources. A typical example here to explain this is would be more appropriate. There is a brand, a company called, which produces products, what do you call, clothings of three different segments, for three different segments. One of their brands is known as the Gap. You will be able to see that the Gap products are normally targeted towards a group of people who are in the middle level. The higher end products of the same company are what we call, or what are known as the brand is the Banana Republic. While at the lower end of the product range, or the brand is known as Old Navy. Now, Old Navy is a cheaper version of products which are available in Gap and Banana Republic, which is obviously the most premium kind of a product. So looking at an example from a practical company framework, we now are clearer that how it is used. More or less the products, the designs are the same, but the type of cloth that is being used and the location where they are produced are obviously different. When you have a premium product like Banana Republic, then these are produced in different country, which has got a higher technology area in terms of developing cotton and developing cotton-made products, while the people who buy Old Navy can be produced in less developed economies from where where the technology requirements are not really high, and also the prices of the product is not high. Now, having explained the area where status is the prime driver, we go into the third group, the last group of motivators, which is self-expression. Now, in the case of self-expression, we need to understand that there are experiencers, people who appreciate things which are unconventional. So they tend to do things which are risky. They are more adventurous. They want to live life through expressing themselves and their behaviors. And that frame becomes the critical point for these people. And again, remember that these are people who want to demonstrate how aggressive they live their lives are, but they also have sufficient resources to be able to buy products. And they normally tend to spend a lot of money on fashion. They spend a lot of money on socializing. They spend a lot of money on entertainment. So they are normally entertaining people, and you can see those people who party a lot. They are people who are actually trying to express themselves through the kind of parties they throw. Now, again, if you see the difference between the thinkers who also have abundant resources, as well as people who have the prime motivation of self-expression, you see the difference. Now, in one case, obviously, they also buy premium kind of products, both buy premium products, but their lifestyle is different. One is more fun-loving. They go out and enjoy and take risk. Their behaviors will be adventurous orientation. Now, again, within the same group of people who are into self-expression but have less resources, we find who we call the makers. Now, these people are basically value-oriented. They are practical in their life. They obviously like to express themselves also, but they express themselves through practicality. They look at constructive activities which surround their families. They indulge and prefer value rather than luxury. So they are more friend-oriented. Now, the difference between the two groups we discussed just now, experiencer and the maker, is that both socialize, but in the case of the experiencer, the socializing is with people of every kind. So they are not really concerned with whether it is a group of friends getting together. On the other side of the picture is the makers. The makers are more concerned with family friends, and they would also party, but they will try and keep the group close to their own families and own friends and not go beyond that. So this value framework, the Walls framework, not the value framework, Walls framework specifically tries to segregate the market into 8 distinct groups and helps the marketer to be able to develop their marketing campaigns according to the segment that they have. Walls has been used very prominently by marketers, specifically companies have used them, particularly the car manufacturers has used them. And I've just given you an example of a company which has more or less used the same framework in terms of developing their brands for various segments. Before I finish this particular part of the AIO framework, I'd like to show you certain questions which are again developed using the Likert scale. If you remember, when we were discussing the various scales or measures that are used in research, we had mentioned Likert scale, which is basically agree or disagree with a kind of a statement. Now, this AIO inventory that I am going to just show a few questions, which is part of a large group of questions. Now, AIO questionnaires that you normally use, obviously, by the very nature of it, you will find that there will be a large number of questions regarding activities and a large number of questions regarding interest, a large number of questions regarding opinions. So this whole frame of walls or the AIO framework requires a large group of questions, and responses are recorded from a very randomly selected population segment. Why? Because we are trying to cover the overall the country's base and trying to figure out how these segments can be developed within a country. So we have a large number of questions and responses are taken, and I'm just showing you a small part or a portion of this, what we call the AIO inventory. Now, if you see, the first question is, for example, I feel that my life is moving faster and faster, sometimes just too fast. Now, this suggests the form of activities that are relevant, that the person seems to have no time for involving himself into some kind of leisure activities. Now, look at the second question. If I could consider pluses or minuses, technology has been good for me, which basically suggests that this person is more involved in using technology gadgets, for example, computers, the laptops, the mobile phones, and so on and so forth. Similarly, it says, given my lifestyle, I have more shortage of time than money. Again, this person lives a very fast-moving life, and if one looks at it, we can now start figuring out how these segments can be developed. People who are responding agree to this kind of question will be pulled together, and people who are responding disagree to this question will be pulled together. Obviously, the problem would be simple. In one case, if the person is disagreeing with this question of shortage of time more than money, and he says, no, I have more time, but I've left money, we know where it would fit in. So coming to the final conclusions that we are drawing, we need to be able to now clearly lay down as to what is the basic use of these AIO inventories and how these can be developed and segmented using the walls technology. Completing this section, we move on to the use situation, where use situation or use framework would mean that how much usage is undertaken by a consumer for a particular product. So we have basically three types of groups of people. There is a group of people who use the product very heavily. The other group is the medium user, and the other is the light user. Now, what is the purpose of doing this? According to research, it suggests that normally 20% of customers buy 80% of the product, which is also called the 20-80 rule of thumb. And we normally use this in management, and this is confirmed through research. It has been confirmed through research in consumer behavior that 20% of the population or the segment that you are interested in uses 80% of the product. So they are really heavy users. And any marketer would be more interested in trying to target these heavy users rather than try to target the light users, because the light users normally will not be buying so frequently, whereas the heavy users will be normally the people who will buy repeatedly, so they need to be targeted more efficiently. Now, having understood the basic logic of it, let's look at the grouping and the strategic approach that is being suggested in terms of breaking the market into heavy as well as light users. If you look at the screen, you will find that the segmentation strategy that is logically applied here is that there is a group called low lows. Now, low lows mean that the usage rate is low, as well as the market share of this group is also low. When the usage rate is low and the market share is going to be low, the strategy that is suggestive is of starving, which means you ignore them. You do not try and promote a group of people who not only use the product less, but in the overall company's market share, they also form a very small group. So you tend to not waste your time on this particular group, and therefore by ignoring them, you actually try and the word that is being used is to starve them out of the system. Now on the other side, you have high lows, which basically means that the current share is very high, but their consumption is very low. If this kind of a group exists and you have been able to, or the marketer has been able to find out that there is a particular group of people who have a high market share, but they are very low consumption pattern, that could be in the overall market condition. So the logic would be to try and increase their usage rate, which means to try and force them to buy more, or try to encourage them. I would not choose the word force, but to encourage them to buy more regularly and increase their consumption. If you recall the strategy of, in the marketing course, we have a strategy, particularly the growth matrix or the growth strategy, which we use normally. And these are again related to two broad frameworks. One is market and the other is product. And if we can see it on the screen, which I'm going to show you, there are four particular grouping of strategies. One is what we call, if we have the old market and the old product, then we try and penetrate the market. Now, if you logically link it up with this framework, then the high current share and low usage will basically require the penetration strategy, which means you encourage the people to use the product more. So a simple example would be to take the example of toothpaste. We know that people normally use the toothpaste early in the morning. Now, if I know that this person is more concerned with his personality and the way he wants to look, so what we can do is to convince the person to be able to use the toothpaste regularly after every meal, which means basically you are increasing the usage rate. Now, this forms the case of the high-end users, and I suggested to you that it links up with the concept of growth matrix strategies, which means penetrating the market a little bit more. Now, the third group is where the market share is low, but the group of people are what we call high users, but the aggregate demand of that product within the company's framework is a little high, a little low, but the usage rate of this group is very high, which means generally they are buying the product from other companies, they're buying other brands. So they are heavy users, but in terms of the company's own share of the market, they are a very small component. So logic suggests that we need to push and go after these people. And what would require is to convert them from other brands to our brand of the product. This requires basically what we have in terms of brand management. Therefore, we must be able to suggest to them that our brand is of a higher value than the competitor's brand that they are using. So we need to be able to apply the concept of chasing after them, going after this group, which is basically the group which is users, heavy users, but in the form of the company's own market share, within the company's own sales, they form a very small share of the overall sales factor. Now, the final group of people are what we have is they are high consumers, consumption pattern is very high, and they also form a large group of the company's own sales revenue. So they constitute the largest group of the company's buyers of the product, as well as they are heavy consumers. Logic again suggests that these people should not be ignored. These are the people you want to continue to maintain within the company. So they are the people who would be given a lot of advantage. They are going to be protected, जिसको हम कहें उनके सर पे हाथ रखा जाए, and they are the people who will be repeatedly provided the best possible facilities by giving them club membership privileges, more discounts, and so on and so forth. There are a number of strategies that will be then possibly located within the group. So we have looked at 4 categories, and again remember that these 4 groups are basically what we say the strategic groups in which we apply ourselves. The low lows, the high lows, the low highs, and the high highs. And it suggests abroad, I mean, it's basically a tool. So we should not consider it that it is the only way we look at strategy development, but using the concept of usage rate, we can do it. The second use situation could be the awareness concept. Now, every company has to make the market aware of their own products. In certain cases, we can study the market. We can actually segment the market on the basis of a group of people who are very much aware of our product, a group of people who are not aware of our product. And the simple logic which is used here is that only those people will buy the product who are actually aware of the product. And if the group of people are not at all aware of the product, there is no possibility that they will be able to buy. Not only that, even leading into brand loyalty or brand equity concept, which means how strong is the brand in the market, obviously the first starting point has to be the awareness concept. So if the brand is more well known in the market, the logic suggests that it will become a preference or a choice for the consumer. So very simply, we can effectively segment the market in terms of awareness for that particular brand or product, and logic again is very simple behind this. So the third one after the awareness is what we call brand loyalty concept. Obviously, we should be able to determine the importance of brand loyalty. Importance of brand loyalty suggests that it suggests repeat behavior, repeat purchase behavior. Every company would like to get the people to repeatedly buy their own brands. We've already discussed, remember that we've already discussed certain other concepts in terms of, let's say, the Walls framework. And we have suggested that the innovators, the people who have high resources, are motivated by different prime motivators, are not considered to be loyal for a simple reason that they make choices and they go for new products. But now we are into the framework where we are trying to figure out who are more brand loyal and who are not as brand loyal as we would like them to be. And again, the same situation which we discussed in terms of awareness is now coming into position in terms of brand loyalty. And brand loyalty is the goal of every marketer. He would like or she would like to make sure that people become so brand loyal that they will even wait to a point of time till they get the same brand that they have started with. So again, the markets can be segmented in terms of high brand loyalty, median brand loyalty, and low brand loyalty. Low brand loyalty obviously suggests a very strong switching behavior. And if we also look at the kind of products, because brand loyalty is also very strongly linked with the type of product. So in terms of companies who are selling commodity type of products where differentiation is very low, and if those people try and push from developing brand loyalty, it will become very costly affair. While as there is already a product which is well differentiated and the marketing has already been able to create a very strong differentiation, that particular product obviously is more amenable to be able to create brand loyalty around it. This brings us to the procedures that we have discussed in terms of the basis for segmentation. There are a number of others, but broadly we are looking at the ones that we have discussed during these two sessions. Now I will come into the area of deciding what is a good segment, because remember we started the lecture from today's lecture also in recapitulating the STP framework, because once we have done the segmentation, the logic would say that we will now move on to targeting, which means we will have to make a choice of which segment to go for. But before we can establish the target, we need to be able to explain what is a good segment. A good segment logically would be the one which can be identified. Very simply, we have already discussed the various frames under which identification can take place using all the bases. The second one is that it should be measurable, which means you should be able to define its boundaries very categorically and also then be able to use it to forecast demand for your product within the a particular area. The third is that it should be accessible. Now, accessible means, is that segment which we can reach really? Because if we cannot reach a segment either through the media or even through delivery processes, then that segment will not form to be a good choice of a segment. The fourth one would be that it is substantial. Now, remember, we had already talked about measurability in the sense that once we have been able to identify the segments, we should be able to measure the demand within the segment using whatever frames we have. We can use it by the number of people involved in it, number of times they use the product, and by a simple mathematics of multiplication, we should be able to measure the demand in that segment. However, the segment that is suitable for us should be the one which will be enough, and that is what we call substantial. Substantial demand should exist in that segment, so that in terms of our production, in terms of our economies, we should be able to get the benefit of that segment. If the segment is too small, then obviously the cost of trying to serve this segment will go beyond our requirements, which may be not a good idea for the company to have. So the segment must have substantial demand for our product so that we can approach this with a proper value proposition. Now, finally, the segment should be what we call actionable. What it basically means is that if I try and create differentiation in it and there is no responsiveness within the system, then it is not a good segment. Particularly, let's put it this way, that, and if you remember in the economics, if it is price elastic, then we have an issue there. Why? Because anybody who can give a low price will most probably get the benefit of it, and we cannot differentiate the product except using the price. And price approach would be a very dangerous approach to use in a segment which is automatically limited also. And obviously, when we start a price war, we get into problem, and that is why we have constantly tried to figure out how to create substantial value through differentiation processes. Now, therefore, actionable means basically that whatever offer we have, then there should be substantial response coming to us regarding that particular offer. This obviously establishes the structure or the framework by which we should be able to determine which particular segment is suitable for us. Having said all this, we now need to be able to suggest a certain frameworks, which I would like to demonstrate at the end of the lecture, to be able to show you a way of doing segmentation. Not only the usage, the method of using the bases, but a graphic presentation or three-dimensional presentation of how a segment can be done in terms of a hotel. Now, if you look at the screen, you should be able to see that there are three basic dimensions along which broad market of a hotel segmented. The one is price quality relationship. The second one is use location, which means where is it basically located. And the third area is what kind of location is it? You know, it could be within the city, it can be outside the city. The use location could be whether it is for tourism, people are visiting there, or is it a business center where people go for conferences and so on and so forth. And price quality, obviously there are different price levels. You have a very economy class kind of a hotel, and then there is a medium class level, and then there is something what we call the premium hotels, which are available. Now, keeping these in mind, by using this framework, you should be able to develop a very effective graphical frame for the purposes. Now, at the end of this lecture again, let me give you certain suggested marketing strategies for various areas. Now, each slide would be able to quickly review what the strategic application could be. Therefore, the first one is, let's say, the mass marketing, where one product is applicable to the whole market. The second one is segmental marketing. Now, segmental marketing basically is the midpoint between mass marketing and individual marketing, where basically you've been able to differentiate the product on certain features and grounds. The third slide is about niche marketing. Now, niche marketing is very narrow kind of a market, and we have already discussed that in terms of the innovators when we were looking at the walls. This means that you are providing, the demand is very little, it is a premium product and only targeted to a select group of people before we move into customization. The fourth one is what we say the line marketing. Now, line marketing is basically like we have an example of the banks, the restaurant, where the same frame is used. Let's say Habib Bank market is a line marketing concept, whereas McDonald's is another line marketing concept in terms of restaurant. Finally, we have individual marketing. Now, individual marketing is more like customized marketing, where every individual is considered a single segment, and each one is targeted specifically with a particular customized product. Dell has used this very effectively. Dell computers have used this very effectively, where every individual will be able to develop his or her own choice of configuration for computers. Now, having looked at broadly, we recapitulate what we have discussed in today's lecture. We started with the STP framework, having explained it back again. Then we moved into psychological and psychographic segmentation, which led us into the concept of walls, which I explained quite a lot in detail. Then we moved into use situations, which included three types. One was usage rate, the second was awareness, and the third was brand loyalty. And having discussed the basis, we now then discussed basically what is supposed to be a good segmentation framework, and we have discussed the various factors which should be looked at before we can come to a conclusion that that segment could be used for targeting purposes. We showed a basic three-dimensional frame on which you use three different needs and requirements, and tried to break down the market of a hotel system. This concluded our lecture. In the next lectures, therefore, we will proceed into the ones that I talked to you about in the beginning, which is psychological segmentation procedures. But more than that, we will be discussing motivation, perceptions, and the assimilated frameworks, which will help us get a very clear picture of why people buy and how they buy. Thank you very much.